Karen showed up with the cops, demanding I leave my own lake cabin, claiming I was trespassing on her land. But when I pulled out the official survey proving I owned the entire shoreline, including the boat dock her HOA relied on, the tables turned. 3 days later, I signed a lease with her HOA, and she was paying me rent just to set foot near the water. That morning, I woke up to loud banging on my door. Not knocking, fists slamming like someone was trying to break in. I opened it to find her, Karen, and a sheriff's deputy standing beside her.
This property is part of the HOA. You're here illegally.
I live here, I said, still half asleep.
That's not your home.
The deputy stepped forward.
She claims you've built on HOA land and refused to comply with community regulations. Do you have proof of ownership?
I did, but I didn't show it yet. Not yet. It all started when I decided to fix up my granddad's old lake cabin. He built it back in the 70s, long before the area was turned into a picture-perfect HOA suburb run by people like Karen. The land, including the dock and shoreline, was part of a legal parcel passed down to me. Fully registered, taxes paid. Outside of any HOA boundary. But Karen had a different story. According to her, a revised zoning plan placed my entire cabin and dock within shared HOA recreational space. She even planted a metal sign next to my dock that read, HOA property members only. At first I ignored it, figured it was a misunderstanding. Then the HOA shut off water access. Then they blocked off my dock with yellow rope. Then, finally, Karen showed up at my door with a cop, trying to evict me from my own cabin. This time, I calmly pulled out the deed, the property map, the purchase contract, the fact that the parcel was never annexed into the HOA, and that the boat dock, picnic area, and a chunk of their walking trail, all on my land. The deputy flipped through the pages, then looked at Karen.
He's within his rights. You may want to consult a lawyer before making further claims.
Karen's jaw tightened.
This isn't over.
She said. She had no idea how right she was. 2 days after Karen brought the sheriff to my door, I hired a licensed land surveyor. He didn't just walk the property with a clipboard. He showed up with drones, GPS, and laser mapping gear. When he finished scanning the land, he looked at me and said,
You own more than you think.
Not just my cabin and dock, but the full stretch of shoreline the HOA had turned into their community launch zone. Even better, half their beloved lakeside parking lot sat on my land too. They'd held summer BBQs, HOA parties, even yoga sessions, all without my permission. I scheduled a formal HOA meeting. Karen showed up early, in a lavender blazer, arms crossed, eyes narrowed. I laid out the survey maps and county records. She barely looked at them before scoffing.
This is absurd. I don't recognize your claims.
I kept my cool and replied, That's fine. The county does. And starting today, I don't recognize your right to use my dock. Then I handed her a lease agreement. Terms were simple. Annual rent for use of the dock, shoreline, and launch zone. All events require my written approval at least 2 weeks in advance. I can revoke access with 30 days notice, no explanation needed. I leaned forward, voice calm but sharp. You have 72 hours to sign or lose all access. For good. 3 days later, the papers were signed. Now, every time Karen walks past the dock, she has to glance at a new sign I posted. Private property. Access by permission only. Owner, not you. Funny thing? The HOA used to act like I didn't exist. Now they knock on my door for dock permits. They CC me on every event. And Karen, now smiles through clenched teeth when she sees me. Karen thought blasting music at midnight would make me cave butt. I hit back with stadium speakers, bagpipes, and polka at sunrise. She messed with the wrong neighbor, and that was only the beginning. When I first moved into my quiet cul-de-sac in suburban Arizona, I thought I'd finally escape the chaos of city living. Because that's when I met Karen. She lived directly next door, with a perfectly manicured lawn. From the moment I moved in, she watched me like a hawk. If I left my garbage bins out 15 minutes past pickup, she would be at my door. At first, I tried to be diplomatic. I introduced myself. I baked banana bread. I even joined the neighborhood HOA Facebook group, where she was off-course admin. It began on a Thursday night. I'd just finished a long day and settled into bed with a cup of tea. Midnight rolled around, and just as I was drifting, off boom, bass, shaking, throbbing. Someone was blasting club music like it was New Year's Eve in Ibiza. I looked out the window. Her living room lights were on, and her sliding doors were open. The thumping house music poured out onto the cul-de-sac like a sonic flood. The next morning, bleary-eyed, I walked over and politely asked if she could keep the volume down at night. Karen didn't even let me finish.
If you don't like it,
She sneered.
buy better windows. This is a free country.
I blinked. It's midnight music. That's not reasonable,
It's called celebration, neighbor.
she said.
Some of us have lives.
And with that, she shut the door in my face. I figured it was a one-time thing. I was wrong. The next night, music again. Same time, same level. I called the non-emergency police line. They came out, knocked on her door, and she turned off the music. But the next night, it happened again. And again. And again. This went on for 2 weeks. Karen was smart. She never played it long enough to rack up serious violations, but just long enough to make sure I barely slept. When I confronted her again, she just laughed.
What? Can't handle a little music? Maybe you should move somewhere with less culture.
By now, I was exhausted and fuming. So I started planning. You see, I used to be a sound engineer before switching careers. I know my way around some serious equipment. I ordered 2 stadium-grade directional speakers online, the kind used in concerts or football stadiums. Next came the permits. Turns out, as long as I wasn't violating noise ordinances, which typically don't start until 10 p.m., I could play music just like anyone else. Once the gear arrived, I carefully mounted the speakers on the side of my garage, facing directly at Karen's bedroom window. I even got creative and disguised them as decorative lanterns. Then I waited. Karen's midnight music started up again the following Friday. She was blasting some overplayed EDM track, probably trying to impress a date or annoy me or both. So, at exactly 7 a.m. Saturday morning, I struck back. I played polka. On full blast. Karen came flying out of her house, robe flapping, hair a mess. She stomped to the edge of her lawn and screamed,
Turn it off.
I calmly waved from my porch, coffee in hand. It's daytime, I shouted back. Free country, remember. She called the police. They came. They measured the sound levels. They looked at the HOA guidelines, and they told her very politely that I wasn't breaking any rules. That Monday, Karen filed a complaint with the HOA. They told her the same thing, so I kept it up. Every time she blasted her music at midnight, I hit her with an early morning symphony. After a week, Karen caved. She came over in tears, dark circles under her eyes, and said,
Okay, you win. I'll stop. Just please, no more polka.
I nodded. Deal. She hasn't played music at night since. But just in case, the speakers are still mounted, still pointed, still waiting. Karen, our HOA queen, was the epitome of absurdity. She carried the remote control for the neighborhood gate like a scepter, and her eyes sparkled with rules and regulations that she enforced with sadistic pleasure. The evening after a 14-hour shift promised to be quiet, but instead of the usual suburban noise, the silence was pierced by a blood-curdling sound, a weak, desperate scream. It came from the house of my elderly neighbor Rose. Instinct overcame fatigue. A second, a bang. The glass crumbled. Rose lay unconscious. Let's rewind a little. I am a 35-year-old medical helicopter pilot with 12 years of critical care experience under my belt. On a Tuesday night, after a grueling shift, all I hoped for was silence, chips, and a bed. Instead, I was stuck in the garage, fiddling with the lawnmower. Almost midnight. And then, a weak scream. Shrill. Desperate. I recognized the voice. It was Mrs. Rose, my elderly neighbor. Everything inside me broke off. Without thinking, I broke the window and burst into her house. She was lying on the floor unconscious. I immediately called an ambulance. The dispatcher warned, they will arrive in 12 minutes. But our village, Willowbrook Estates, after 10 p.m., turned into a fortress. Automatic gates, alarm, security. Without a code, no entry, no passage. The sirens were already sounding in the distance when Karen appeared. She stood like a guard at the gate, with the same remote control and an icy smile.
After 10, no entry. Rules.
She said, as if it was not a question of a person's life. I realized, if they did not get to her, I would take them myself. I took off from a nearby pad, landed right in front of Mrs. Rose's house, carefully landed the helicopter on the lawn, ran up, laid her in the passenger seat, and flew to the nearest clinic. Paramedics met us at the gate. Her heart stopped for 30 seconds, but they made it. She survived. When I got home, Karen was waiting with a new expression on her face.
Enjoying being a hero? This will cost you dearly,
She said. 18 hours later, I received a letter. The HOA accused me of unauthorized entry, damaging private property, and even threatening a council member. The fine was $3,000. Then I started digging. In the past 3 years, 5 families had moved out of the community after conflicts with Karen. Their homes were soon sold below market to Karen's relatives or other board members. I pulled up the correspondence. Official HOA letters were sent from Karen's personal email account, then deleted. There were almost no traces left. I contacted a former colleague, now a police officer. He confirmed that blocking an ambulance is a criminal offense, obstructing the work of emergency services. The disciplinary hearing was a farce. Karen brought in false witnesses, showed supposedly video footage. It all looked like a crudely staged performance. When I was given the floor, I presented evidence of Karen's illegal power, of what happens when the rules go against human life. I presented forged letters, dubious transfers from the HOA account, property ownership schemes. Mrs. Rose came to support me, already weak, but standing. The room fell silent. The vote was decisive, 38-7 in my favor. The violations against me were dropped. The council announced the beginning of an official investigation into the finances of the HOA. At the next meeting, Karen took the microphone. She read the statement in a trembling voice, admitting that she had abused her power, obstructed emergency care, and made false accusations. It did not save her. She was unanimously removed from her post. Dr. Rose became the new chair.